It's the Mike Francesa podcast on the Bet Rivers Network.
Hello again, everybody, and welcome to the Mike Francesa podcast on the Bet Rivers Network, brought to you by Casamigos Tequila. Casamigos Tequila is brought to you by those who drink it. We have passed the 4th of July holiday. We now head towards the All-Star break, and it is fair to say right now, folks, that the Yankees have completely malfunctioned. They can't do anything right. They have missed Stanton dramatically, and I think all of us, and I have to take blame for this myself, have taken Stanton's power and his game-wrecking ability for granted. He isn't consistent. You can get him out if you pitch him well. You can get him out in a big spot. He sometimes hits the superfluous home run that comes when the game is out of reach, but he can explode games with his power, and they miss that dramatically. Right now, they're a two-man lineup. They're so top-heavy right now that it is overwhelming. They're like the 2 and 7 dwarfs. I mean, it is awful what they're putting on the field right now in every way. And they have taken some extreme measures. Taking Volpe out of the leadoff spot is an extreme measure. They don't have a replacement. But you can't have Volpe hit, 190 in his last 30 games and get 0 walks. Okay? He's 4 for 33 with 0 walks. In his last 30 games, he has 3 walks. His on-base percentage for those 30 games is .221. You can't have a guy with a .221 on-base percentage leading off. So I know everybody looks at Volpe as the promise and the fair-haired boy and everything else, but no, you can't have a guy leading off with a .221 in front of the 2 bangers in your lineup. They have got to get somebody into the leadoff spot who can get on base. The problem is they don't have anybody in the lineup who can get on base right now. Nobody. They don't have a leadoff hitter. As I've told you for years, they haven't had a leadoff hitter for years. LeMahieu can't even stay in the lineup, no less bat leadoff. They have nobody. And when they try and do something like put Torres in, you can't put Torres in the leadoff spot. And Rice doesn't belong in a leadoff spot. They don't have a leadoff hitter. I'm going to tell you right now, if Grisham's in the lineup, I'd bat him leadoff. Because he'll walk. And I think the more he plays, the better his averages are going to get. I'd rather see him bat leadoff than anybody else in the lineup if he's in the lineup. And, yes, I know everybody wants to get crazy on him, and you know how bad I am when guys don't hustle. I don't think the Grisham play in the 9th inning was a lack of hustle. He plays every ball that way. He just bobbled the ball. It looked awful. Because the guy had stopped at first base, and he got an extra base that could have been dramatic, even though they were down 4 runs and they weren't coming back. It looked bad. But that's how he didn't do anything. It wasn't like he didn't run. It wasn't like he didn't hustle. That's how he plays the outfield. And he's very good at it, except he bobbled the ball. It cost him a base, and it looked really bad. I agree. Everything for them right now looks bad. They have completely malfunctioned. They have the worst record in baseball in the last 19 games. And they got swept at home by the Cincinnati Reds. The Reds aren't any good. And Stroman lets these, banjo hitters knock the ball out of the park. Why? Because he gives up 350-foot fly balls. That's what he does. He's not made for Yankee Stadium, I'll tell you that from the start of the year, because he gives up fly balls. He's too easy to put the ball in the air. Listen, he does throw a lot of groundouts. But when he doesn't get big strikeouts, and he's easy if you know what you're doing to lift the ball against. Those balls yesterday, 2 of those 3 home runs shouldn't have been home runs. But in Yankee Stadium, they're home runs. And the Yankees have hit plenty of those too. But he gives up a lot of those because he gives up a lot of fly balls that when they hit pretty well. Or at least go over 350, 370, and they go out of the ballpark, especially Yankee Stadium. But this is a total collapse. And this is with, now yesterday Judge had a bad game. Nobody in that lineup other than Soto and Judge is doing anything. Volpe's 4 of his last 33, and in his last 30 games, he has 3 walks. For Dugo, he's hit 1 homer in his last 30 games. He's hitting 190 with 2 RBIs in his last 15 games. Since he ran into the wall, he has been terrible. Torres is hitting 170 in his last 15 games, and he's done nothing all year. LeMahieu is hitting 183 on the season. He's slugging 204. If he gets a double, you have to have a parade. Stanton's absence, even Rizzo's absence, and Rizzo wasn't doing anything. Stanton's absence has been not troublesome. It has been traumatic for them. But it's not just the offense. It's the pitching. Heel's got a 6.45 ERA in July and a 909 ERA, a 6.45 ERA and in ERA in July. Rodon's got a 7.76 ERA in June. Holmes has given up 11 hits in his last 6 innings. Can't come in the game with a game on the line and give up 11 hits in 6 innings. His whip is 165 in those games. You're not going to be effective doing that. The Yankees have the worst record in baseball. How bad was that? How telling was that? First of all, the Yankees usually don't lose on 4th of July. When the Yankees play day games on the 4th of July, they usually win. The Yankees got swept by the Reds. The Reds were the first NL team to come into Yankee Stadium and sweep a 3-game series from the Yankees. Think about that. The Yankees won 2 out of 4 in Toronto. You come home, they're playing the Reds, you're figuring, all right, they can get healthy against the Reds. They lose game 1 by 1 run. Lose game 2 by 1 run. You're figuring, all right, they got Stroman on the hill against a guy who couldn't pitch for the Yankees. All right, this will be an easy one. Get a coast job and get out of there with a win. Before you know it, they're down 2-0. Next thing you know, they're down 5. Next thing you know, they're trying to get back in the game. For some reason, he made the bullpen moves he made yesterday and turned a 5 into an 8, and now 8-2 was too much to come back from. 5-2, they could have come back. 8-2, they're not coming back. So it's a home run. And listen, this is not Washington. This is not San Diego. This is the Yankees. I don't need a big smile as you go around second base in the 8th inning or 7th inning of a game where you hit a home run that makes the score 8-4. You're getting swept. You've lost 14 of 18, and you got a big smile on your face as you go around the bases. Nobody needs to see that. Nobody. Team game. I understand. You're proud of your statistics. You're starting in the All-Star game. I understand. Your numbers are good. You're having a great year. You're going to make a lot of money in free agency. We understand all that. But when the team can't get out of its own way, reserve the smile going around the bases. They have completely malfunctioned. They have so many problems right now, they can't fix them all. You got to take them one at a time and figure out which ones you're going to fix. Now, what's stunning about this is they went through the start of the season through the 12th of June, and they didn't have a hiccup. They weren't just beating people. They were kicking the heck out of people. And now, since they lost the back 2 games of that series in Fenway Park, they can't get out of their own way. They can't beat anybody. And they have the worst, think about it, they have the worst record in baseball in the last 3 weeks. The worst record in the major leagues, the Yankees. And Orioles lost yesterday. Yankees are down 3 in the loss column to the Orioles. Orioles haven't played great the last 2 weeks. The Yankees are going to see the Orioles last 3 games before the All-Star break. The Yankees are going to stop in Tampa before that. They're going to play the Red Sox this weekend at Yankee Stadium starting tonight. The Red Sox are coming in playing well. They've moved to 8 games over 500. The Yankees are now in their sights. And they're going to come in here this weekend and they're going to play inspired baseball. And they're going to steal everything but the chandeliers if you let them and embarrass the Yankees on the base paths. Yankees have to snap out of this. Now, I understand they're a little banged up. But this, remember, they have gotten an insane year out of Judge and a tremendous year out of Soto. And that's been worthless the last couple of weeks. Worthless. It hasn't helped them at all. They don't have anybody to bat leadoff. Nobody. Nobody fits the bill. Nobody on that team fits the bill. You know who should bat lead? You know who could bat leadoff on this team? Soto. Some people like power hitters one, and he sure walks enough. He's got the highest on-base percentage in baseball. He can bat leadoff. No one else can. I'm not knocking anything Rice has done in his 42 at-bats, okay? And his on-base percentage has been good. I'm just not buying it yet. I understand why he's batting there. Because so far his on-base percentage is good. I understand that. Guy's had 42 at-bats. He's had 11 hits. And he's had 7 walks. So he's hitting 260 with a 360 on-base percentage. 360 for the Yankees right now is, if you take Judge and Soto out, is so high compared to the other players, it's off the charts. They don't have anybody else for a 30. But I don't think he's a leadoff hitter. And you're not batting him there against the lefty. They don't have anybody to bat leadoff. They have no protection for Soto and Judge. I wouldn't pitch to either one of those guys with the game on the line if your life depended on it. And listen, it wouldn't be unusual if Judge went, 1 for 20 or something. He's been that hot. If that happens, what's going to happen to this team? They can't trust their starting pitching right now. They can't trust the bullpen right now. They can't trust their lineup right now. That about sums it up. And I was at a family function yesterday, and I got in the car around 6 o'clock on the way home. And I turned on the fan in the car, and they were pounding. I said to Harrison, who was driving with me, I said, Harrison, I guarantee they're pounding Boone. They were pounding him into submission. All of a sudden, this is Boone's fault? Was it Boone's fault when they were the toast of baseball for the first, 2.5 months? Or did Boone do something different since then? He wrote out the same lineup card. It's just not working right now. Is it Boone's fault that Heel can't get anybody out now? Is it Boone's fault that the starting pitching is falling apart? Is it Boone's fault that Volpe can't get a hit? Or Verdugo can't get it out of his way? Or LeMahieu looks like he's 100 years old? Now, did I think he managed a good game yesterday? No, because I thought he needed to keep that game at 5, and I don't think he tried very hard to keep that game at 5. And that was a lousy performance, from Stroman. Stroman's supposed to be professional. He's a veteran, supposed to be professional. They needed him to go out there yesterday and put up, 6 zeros. Instead, he gives up 3 home runs to a lousy lineup and 5 runs. That's a terrible performance. On a day where they needed somebody to step up for them. That's what a veteran pitcher does. He goes out there when the team needs it and puts up 6 scoreless innings. And lets them get a win to stop a losing streak and to stop getting swept. They need Stanton to come back. And they have to take a very hard look. And I think these next 3 series will be very telling as to what they think about themselves going into the All-Star break. Boston, which is playing really well. Tampa, which is now over 500. And then Baltimore, which has beaten them 5 out of 7. And last time we saw him put up 17 runs. Yankees were methodically boring for a couple of months. Not boring anymore. Just putrid. Not boring. Just putrid. And yesterday was an out-and-out embarrassment. Now to the Mets. It looked like the Mets were doing something that you knew couldn't continue. They were overcoming the fact that they couldn't get anybody out of the bullpen. And they were overcoming it with this lineup that just kept pounding people. And that had to cool down. But the 1-0 game yesterday where they get a gem thrown at them, first of all, it's 11 o'clock in the morning. So half of them weren't awake. Secondly, you have those days. The Mets had hit a home run in every game for like 3 weeks. The fact that they had a bad day and got the last 17 guys retired and got one hit, all right, that happens. You have days like that. That game yesterday didn't bother me, and it happens. The game that was critical for the Mets was the Wednesday game. Here they were about to win the 3rd straight game in Washington, open up with a 3-0 road trip, move a couple of games over 500, win the series, 5-0 lead, going to the bottom of the 5th. And what happens? They give up a run in the 5th, 3 in the 6th, 2 in the 7th, 1 in the 8th, and they lose that game from 5-0 down, 7-5 to Washington. That yesterday the kid pitch hits a home run and wins the game in the bottom of the 8th, and the kid pitches brilliantly. That happens. That's baseball. That's not a big deal. The Wednesday game was a killer. Because now all they did was split the 4 games in Washington. After winning the first 2. You could have lived with yesterday if they won the first 3 games of the series, but their bullpen is dreadful. Yes, they got to get Diaz back, but they also have to go out, and if they want to stay in this wild card race, they have got to improve this bullpen. Hey, they're going to be battling a lot of teams looking for relief help, and the Yankees are going to be right there with them. But they need that. You can't knock anything that's going on with this Met lineup. I mean, with what Alvarez brings, what Vientos. I told you all along I never liked Beatty, and I wasn't trying to knock Beatty, but I just never saw anything in Beatty that was redeeming. This guy, Vientos, I know he's a shaky fielder, but he's got power. He's got legitimate power. They've been scoring runs, but I don't care how many runs you score. And they had as good a June as you could possibly have, but you can't overcome your bullpen getting destroyed every night. And this was Washington destroying them. Now they see Pittsburgh, 4 games wraparound series. Then they see Washington again. Then they see Colorado before the break. These are winnable games. They got to get right back on the horse tonight in Pittsburgh, and they're going to see the Phenom. Okay, if you haven't heard about, I'm sure you've heard about Skeens. If you haven't seen him yet, and I haven't seen him yet, I know he's 4-0. I know how many guys he struck out already. He struck out 70 guys in 50 innings. He's got a 1 whip. He's a Phenom. He's got a beautiful girlfriend. We know the whole deal, okay? He's got the whole deal going right now. He's got the big power pitcher life going. The internet girlfriend, the power fastball, striking everybody out, Phenom, the whole thing. Let's see how he fares tonight. Hey, he looks like the real deal. 70 strikeouts in 52 innings. 4-0 already. This is the kind of guy you can build a franchise around. That's what he looks like. Mets get him tonight with Severino, who's been good. Mets. The National League is mediocre. The Mets can stay in this thing. They got to get bullpen help. And they have to do it and do it quick because there's a lot of teams out there looking for bullpen help. Now, could they use a starter? Of course they could use a starter. More likely to get bullpen help, though. The Knicks avoided the dreaded first apron by, reformulating the trade a little bit for Bridges. It should allow them to get their hands on either re-sign Achua or get another backup big. I can tell you again, the key to this whole thing is Randall and Randall's exit. But they did that, and you would expect that from them because they don't do too much that's wrong. They're very shrewd right now. All right, let's get to some emails. You send your emails to the Mike Francesa podcast at gmail.com. Let's see what's on your mind. Let's get to a couple of emails. Here we go. Brian starts us off. With all the Yankee-Oriole talk this year, I was interested in your take on Eddie Murray. Seems like he's a guy who doesn't get enough credit. Is that due to his surly attitude? Yeah. I think a lot of media are reluctant to say sweet things or really glowing things about Murray because he was a pain in the rear end. He hated the media. Evidently, my understanding is he felt he was burned early in his career about some private stuff that got in the paper. It made him very, very tough to deal with. He was about as tough to deal with as you can be. Did it affect them? You know, it affects some guys and it doesn't affect other guys. Carlton was a pain in the neck, never talked to anybody, and everyone still regarded him as this, pitching god. Eddie was an unbelievable switch-hitting, power-hitting first baseman. Incredibly consistent, great RBI man. Tremendous Hall of Fame talent. Nothing else to say. Great power. Could wreck games. And was ultra consistent. So, anything you want to say about Eddie Murray that's good, he was good. He was really good. He's a Hall of Fame player. Hall of Fame legitimate power hitting first baseman. Dustin asks, who's a better coach, Kerr or Spoelstra? First of all, they're both really good coaches. But I'll take Spoelstra. I don't know Spoelstra. I know Steve Kerr. He's had an incredible amount of success. But I think Spoelstra's an amazing coach. What are your thoughts on the NFL Sunday ticket ruling? I promise I will do something on this. I won't do it now because I don't want to short-circuit it. In that it will take a few minutes to go through the ramifications on this, what it means going forward, what are the possibilities as the NFL appeals, and where everything stands. NFL, their abject greed had reached the point where they were taking too many liberties. I don't think there's any question, and they got whacked. They could be on the, because you're dealing with treble damages, which means the damages could be tripled. They could be out $14 billion on this ruling. I think that's unlikely, but they also still could take a hit, and it could impact a lot of things. So I promise I will get into that, but it's going to take a little while to explain, and it's not a subject, as you explain it, that a lot of people are going to pay a lot of attention to because it gets highly technical. But they were excessively greedy, which is they've been under Goodell for a very long time. What were your thoughts on the presidential debate? Taking no sides. I don't want to, because it's so divisive right now, I don't want to get into the qualities of either guy or anything else. I'm just going to take it based on the debate itself and the ramifications of the debate. Going into the debate, they were virtually tied. Trump had been leading in the last year in the polls. The polls had about leveled off to where it was well within the error range, but almost was in a flat-footed tie going into the debate. The debate, I am a very big debate person. I've watched all the debates through the years. I'm a very big a modern presidency person. I follow politics closely. It was not just the worst, they say, Barack Obama's first debate, Reagan's debate, different debates, go back to Nixon, Kennedy. Nixon, if you listen on the radio, won the debate, but Kennedy looked so great on TV. Nixon looked so bad on TV, sweating. Kennedy, cool, calm, and tan and collective, looked so good that they all say Kennedy won the debate visually, but really, if you listen on the radio, the people thought Nixon won the debate. Hey, you can go back to that debate where everything started and go forward. There has never been anything like we saw. Biden has made some very lame excuses since the debate. He was tired that day. How could he be tired that day when he spent the 8 days before that preparing? How would they allow him to be tired the day of the debate? How is that even possible? It's not possible. So you have to go with the premise that he has days like this. Now, let's just go on the idea that he had a bad day. Yeah, you know how you have a bad night's sleep the night before, you're off your game the whole next day. Let's just give him that. And I don't even know if that's true, but let's just give him that. It still doesn't explain the fact that he could not counter anything that his opponent said. So he could do nothing on the fly. And he could not even get out his opening statement or his closing statement. He sometimes gave answers in a debate format where you couldn't interrupt and left 88 seconds on the table in a 2-minute answer. That means he talked for 40 seconds out of 2 minutes. That debate performance was so bad, he would have done better if he said, I'm not going to say anything except my name tonight. I think it might have gone better than it went. That's how bad it was. We have seen nothing in the history of debates that even approaches it. I don't believe that any of us have the answer what's in his heart and what's in his wife's heart right now. And those are the people that count here. Forget anything else. But here's one thing I know. Being president is so special, is so unique, that nobody will give it up unless there is no physical, mental, or possible alternative. Nixon knew it was over. He was done. There was nothing he could do. There was no way to keep the job. And he still had to be taken out of the Oval Office kicking and screaming. That's how great the allure of the job is. Barry Goldwater had to basically, pry him away from his desk to get him out of the Oval Office. And he was toast. It was over. They were coming to get him. And he still didn't want to go. If you think a guy with these guys don't get to this job, either aspire to this job or actually win this job without having massive egos and having great faith in their ability to get the job done. Biden was told for 50 years he would never be president, and he still got to be president. That guy was going for the presidency since the 70s. It took him 50 years to get there. And he got there. And you think he's going to just give it up because he had a bad night? And you think he's going to give it up because some donor is going to tell him, I'm going to pull my money? He's going to tell you, here's the door. Go pull your money. Listen, he's the president. He's already won the nomination. The only way he can leave is by stepping down. Nobody can take it away from him. No one can vote it from him. Nobody can go to a convention back room and wheel and deal it from him. You can't take it from him. He's already got it. He has to actually be told, and evidently in the last couple of days, he's been told by certain people, you can't win this state. You can't win this state. Whitmer told him, you have no chance to win Michigan. They have painted the bleakest possible picture. And all that's done is got his wife's backup and his backup. Now, he's going to do an hour taped interview tonight. The first mistake he made, and it's a colossal one, he never, ever, if he was going to do this hour interview on ABC tonight, that's going to be taped. Now, they're not going to edit it, but it's going to be taped. I gather ABC's agreed not to edit it. No one else, they can't edit it, ABC can't edit it. But it's still on tape. Big mistake. If you were going to do this, you needed to do it live to convince the people, if you think you have any chance to convince them that you can rebound. That's a step in the right direction. The odds on him keeping the nomination are not overwhelming because I think there might be. Listen, I don't have any connection to Joe Biden. From what I can understand, the people who are going to influence him are his wife and Barack Obama. Maybe Clyburn a little bit too. Because he was very instrumental. Without Clyburn, he doesn't get the nomination last time. He doesn't win the election last time. I think he wants to run because I don't think he wants anyone telling him how his final chapter is going to be written. And I wouldn't want anyone telling me how it's going to be written either. And he is not someone who's running for president who got the nomination. He is the president. Remember that. He is not someone running for the presidency. He is the president of the United States. Take that into account. It's already his job. He's already beaten Trump once. So in his heart, he thinks he can beat him again. Even though we all know after that performance, the odds on him beating Trump without some miracle right now is really slim. I mean, if you're going to ask me right now today who's going to win the election, I'm going to tell you Trump's going to win because he now is probably a good 6 points, maybe even more ahead. And we're talking about 5 or 6 states which are going to make the difference, and it looks like Trump's leading in all of them right now. Trump looked far more vibrant. Whether he lied or not, we all know we can get into that, and I don't want to bother getting into that. Because if you love Trump, you're not going to buy into it. And if you hate Trump, you're going to believe whatever you want to believe. If you like Biden, we know how divided the country is. Don't try to convince anybody of anything now because people are entrenched. But people who were going to vote for Biden are now afraid to vote for him because of what they saw. Now, here's 2 things I would say. If you ask me, is he going to step down? I'd say it's 70-30 against, barring some illness or him like falling down, the stairs of Air Force One and, breaking a leg or something like that. I think it's unlikely he steps down. I'd say 70-30 against. I would also say that there's been talk of having a primary. I think that is unrealistic, that it could be anybody but the vice president who could get the nomination. And I think if they tried to take that away from her, she'd split the party. So it would backfire on them anyway. Now, could she win? I don't think so. So the ramifications are right now that Biden is now fighting for his very political life and a decided underdog. That's the ramifications of the debate, which was the worst single. It was correct, doesn't do it justice. If he took a gun and shot himself in the shoulder, it would have been less painful. That's how bad it was. And the odds on him overcoming that are not zero, but they are very, very strong against him. He's got a big mountain to climb. All right, Leo, you say Randall doesn't fit. Why doesn't he fit? I don't want this to be like, I'm already way over on this podcast. I promise I will do more on this for you, but let me just say that the four players and what they bring in terms of their approach, how they will play offense, the interchangeable nature of the defense, especially with OG and Bridges, Brunson's overwhelming move towards being a superstar. A lot of that happened when Randall wasn't there. And if this team is going to operate, everyone has to understand that the first rule of this is Brunson's team. I'm not even sure that Randall's on board with that. So we can start with an elementary thing like that and go forward. In every way, he doesn't fit. Sometimes less is more. And I'm not saying he doesn't have qualities as a player. Sometimes a player doesn't fit with what you've put together, and in this case, he doesn't. They will be better without him. Because otherwise they won't get everything out of the guys that they have to get out of them. What Hart became, what OG became, what Brunson became, what Bridges will become will be changed by Randall. That's another thing I promise I will do more on as we go forward. Wes, how do you feel about the flagrant nepotism that was given to Bronny James? Is it bad for professional sports? It's unique. LeBron James is such a commanding presence and on such a unique level that he can make this power play, and it is nothing short of a power play. The Lakers chose to placate LeBron. That's their call. I don't think it's anything damaging to the league because I think it's a unique situation. LeBron has the power to make that call for his son, even when his son has not shown an ability that would have put him in that position. That's the fairest way to say it. We'll see you later.
Thanks for listening to the Mike Francesa podcast on the Bet Rivers Network.